Growing up, my favorite Pokemon game was Pokemon Emerald. The huge oceans were amazing, and the legendaries were pretty great too. But one thing that will always be nostalgic for me is the music from Little Root Town. I love how years later I can look back and instantly be transported to my childlike wonder just by listening to the soundtrack. There are 5 reasons that I think this tune is one of the best in the whole series. First, the chord progression. Let's outline what happens in the first 5 measures. In the first 2 measures, the 1 chord moves to a minor 3 chord, a sound that tends to feel bittersweet or even sad in the right context. Then, right here in measure 3, the harmonic movement picks up and we get 2 different chords. The first is a minor 6 chord, and the second is a D minor chord over a C sharp. The C sharp here is just a chromatic passing tone to the next chord. The harmony is emphasizing the fall to the sharp 5, or the flat 6th, in the root. This harmonic progression is resolved here in measure 4 with a 1-6-4 chord. That movement that was set up from the flat 6th to the 5th scale degree in the bass is another incredibly nostalgic and moving progression. You hear it all the time in music that's trying to be very sentimental. Then, the harmony continues to a new place, a G dominant 7th chord. This progression feels like an open-ended question due to the B natural. It's kind of surprising to our ears since it works against the satisfying resolving bass line we just heard. To resolve this B natural, it moves towards a lush 4 chord with a melodic figure that covers the 9th and 7th degrees of the scale. The remainder of this melody finishes with a basic harmonic progression that includes warm color tones in the melody. And speaking of the melody, the whole thing is made up of 2 4-measure phrases. The first phrase meanders and builds lots of tension through rhythmic irregularity and a wide melodic contour. It begins by slowly building up to a high point with lots of stepwise motion, and the very top note of this phrase uses a non-chord tone of an E over a D minor chord to make for a dramatic and sensitive moment. It begins to fall, but keeps the statement feeling open-ended by turning the melody back up to a high note. In the second phrase, the idea is similar, but the rhythms are much more regular and slowed down to resolve the tension built by the first phrase. Just like the first phrase, there's a defined high point, but this time the resolution is more straightforward and stepwise to close it out. But often more important than the way the melody is played is what instrument is playing it. Here, the melody is played on a synth that sounds a little like a flute or piccolo. These woodwinds are often used to create nostalgia in a lot of soundtracks from popular media. Meanwhile, the main accompaniment is played on a pizzicato string instrument. It's a bouncy, innocent sound underneath a much more lush-sounding melody. The fourth element is a small detail that has a powerful impact: grace notes. In order to make the melody feel more folkish, the composer has ornamented the melody by playfully scooping into some key notes. The grace notes take away any feeling of strictness and makes the music feel a bit more casual and whimsical. Finally, the 5th and most important element is the duet in the melodic writing. After the melody is introduced, it's repeated again, but this time it's harmonized by intervals of thirds and sixths. Often composers will use thirds and sixths to ornament the melody to add variety, but this time it also creates the picture of a new character joining in. In this case, it's almost like a childhood friend is now singing along with you to this nostalgic melody. It adds to the good vibes already present here, and it makes every chord a little bit more lush, adding even more emphasis to a rich harmonic progression. And there it is. If you have any other content you'd like me to cover, leave a comment down below and don't forget to subscribe. Thanks for watching.